All right, welcome. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the January 12, 2024 Public Health and Safety Committee meeting. I'm Jean Borak, I'm the chair of the committee. We have in attendance today Cindy Rickford, who's joining us via Zoom, and we're welcoming a new member to the committee, Mike Sadenson. We also have in attendance Mayor Andrea Deutsch and Chief of Police John String. Thank you all for joining us today. So before we start on the agenda, I just wanted to quickly acknowledge and thank former council member Rob McGreevy for serving as the chair of this committee for many years with his thoughtfulness and integrity, and for his generosity in guiding me in this transition into this role. And I'm honored to carry the torch and continue with the good work that he's already done for our town. So thank you for putting your faith in me as your chair, and I ask for your patience as I learn, and I'll look for guidance from you all as I take on this role. And just to kind of quickly review, the committee does have a large area of responsibility between police, fire, emergency management. We also look at pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular transportation, safety management, environmental health, livability, and also zoning, building, and code enforcement regulations. And we're very much supported by our community organizations, like the Environmental Advisory Committee and the Police Advisory Committee, Shade Tree Commission, and all of these organizations work together with the committee to do the work that we do. And we couldn't do it without the volunteer effort. And also we work with the police department and fire department. So I do want to kind of just touch on the revised meeting structure. We will be taking general public comments at the end of the meeting. I expect that will be at around 10:45, and before we end the meeting at 11. And in addition to general public comments, in the future, I will also open up the public comment after discussion of any agenda items that require an action and a vote. Today, we don't have anything that requires that, so we'll just have the general public comment at the end. So without further ado, I'll move to the first agenda item, and that's the approval of the minutes for December. Can I have a motion to approve?
Here, I will move to approve the minutes of the December 13th, 2023 committee meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, great. Minutes are approved. Moving on to our second agenda item, and this is going to be probably a good portion of our meeting today. We're just going to, not a very in-depth discussion, but a quick overview discussion about the Public Health and Safety Committee's goals and priorities for 2024 and beyond. I did include a document in the packet that lists all of the things that we've been working on, lists things that have been identified in our comprehensive plan, and things that have come up as well from our the Environmental Advisory Commission and the Police Advisory Committee. So we're just going to work through that, and I thought it would be helpful for me to just kind of walk us through a little bit as an overview, and then we can discuss it after that. Would you be able to pull it up on screen, or what do you think? So my goal today is really for the committee to give some guidance and direction to the staff, and then we can work together with the staff to kind of figure out what the realistic and achievable goals for this year and next year would be. And then also identify what we can achieve in the very immediate time period between now and like first quarter and 6 months, and then beyond that. So, yeah, really quick, I just want to go through. This is a very 3-page document. Obviously, we're not asking staff to, and this committee to tackle all of this in the next year, but really the objective is to figure out what the priorities are. And I just want to go through really quick some of the things that are on the list from the comprehensive plan. It's a renewable energy transition, which the EAC has been working on, and that would probably happen sometime this year. And then we have the borough demonstration projects for renewable energy and stormwater management best practices. Some of that, we already have some of those projects going on, so that may just mean we support those projects with some education around it. And then integrating partnership efforts for sustainability planning with Lower Merion Township. Right now, Lower Merion is in the process of implementing their sustainability plan, and they're working with the community, and I think that's a good opportunity to identify some places for partnerships where we can align. And then under circulation, there's the walkability audit. Jeff Alden and his department did a whole sidewalk audit last year, and so that's underway and in progress. And then identifying and improving key pedestrian connections, linking neighborhoods to destinations, and the complete streets policy, which also has been identified by our Montgomery County Planning Commission as part of their goals for this year and next year. And then there's some other ones, but I just want to move down to another thing in the comprehensive plan is increasing bike-mounted police patrols, identifying locations for safer pedestrian crossing infrastructure, and the mainline greenway stress point improvements. The current timeline for the mainline greenway is implementation in 2025. So in advance of that, we really have to start thinking about how to support the mainline greenway and making sure those intersections are safe. And then in terms of borough governance, we have the emergency communications, and then something that has been on our list for a long time, but we have never actually tackled is the residential rental registration and inspection program, and property maintenance regulations. So yeah, with that, I just wanted to open up for discussion to see if I can start with the Mike, if you want to give any comments.
Well, obviously I'm new to a lot of this, so I don't have really specific comments. I guess from my perspective, one thing I do notice sort of a general theme is, walkability and accessibility. One thing that I've just noticed as a resident is there are a lot of streets with, or sidewalks with obstructions of various kinds, whether it's overgrowth of trees or, breakage in the sidewalks, etc., that makes it difficult for someone with a stroller or a wheelchair to get around. I certainly noticed that just walking home from the train station every night, that there are places I watched it last night. So that's something, I assume that's sort of incorporated in all of the themes of the sidewalk, whether it's related to the greenway or safe pedestrian crossing and things like that. So it would be nice if we came up with a way to make sure that the community knows that that's an issue for us, and a way of reporting that so that we're not having to just walk around the borough ourselves to figure out where those stress points are.
Right, and it sounds like that's something that can be addressed in the walkability audit and identified through that process.
Just to comment on that, I mean, we've actually incorporated that as part of the walkability audit, so
Okay.
we were flagging any obstructions,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because if we're going to be out there doing one thing, might as well take care of both at the same time.
Exactly, that was my thought.
So we're addressing that through the program.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And I do think that walkability audit should also look at Montgomery Avenue, just because I was just there yesterday to kind of see how walkable it was. And it was a bit of a nightmare, partly because there was some sidewalk reconstruction going on, but there's so many issues there. And I don't feel like we've really addressed that. Did you have any other comments? Cindy, did you have any?
I do. First, Jean, thank you for doing this. This is a really clear organization list with all consumed of lots of highs and mediums. I would see this as aspirational and would really kind of defer to Matt to say, what is that has to be done? You know, I see the police contract as one that, you know, we have to do and thoughtfully. The second one I would put under has to be done is keeping the momentum with the CCA, because that's something that is a conglomerate, is a partnership, where if we bag out of that, we're going to lose the opportunity to do that. Other than that, I personally would give the office 6 months to get sea legs under new management. And I would love a walkability audit. I would love a complete streets. I would not even want to, I think, discuss that until we get some stability in the office and everyone kind of handles the has-tos. So while I love a lot on this list, and I hope that we can get to it someday, I guess my question is for Matt, what has to be done in this committee right now? Not to put you on the spot, but
support staff. I appreciate what you said. Yeah, you know, we've got a lot of transitions happening right now. We've got new committee assignments. We've got new members of council learning what it's like to be on this side. We've got a lot of changes happening in the administrative office. We have, what were we just talking about yesterday? Things aren't necessarily getting better yet. We've stabilized, right? So things were on a downward trajectory. We've stabilized. And that's going to take us time to get that trajectory pointed upwards. I don't disagree with any of these things on this list, right? Yes, absolutely. It's a bandwidth issue. And so just support and grace is what I'm going to ask for. You know, we need to, you know, the nuts and bolts of it, we need some time, and I think 6 months is a good amount of time for us to get things operationally set up where we can start absorbing more of these things. I agree. Please don't interpret that as we can't do anything, we're not going to do anything. No, we're going to continue to do things. To Cindy's point, if we can prioritize, you know, like the police contract, yeah, that's underway. We're not going to, we can't push that off. And all of these other high priority things, you know, maybe we know about them. I know Jeff and his crew, the walkability thing. These are really good ideas that we always keep in the forefront of our minds as we do these tasks that are a part of our normal everyday and special projects. I like this idea of continuing to, and it goes beyond Public Health and Safety Committee. How do we connect to the comprehensive plan? I really like this idea, and I know that's what had been done previously, and I'm looking to build upon that. However, again, to Cindy's point, let's not get mired in the details, and it'll just get so overwhelming that we're just going to become paralyzed. So encouragement from us to you, from you to us, on where are we moving? Let's keep our eye on the ultimate prize and making this, changing the trajectory upward. I think there's a couple of things in here that we can that we're already doing, and this committee I think if we have a recurring update on those things, I like the idea of, one of my favorite sayings are, ideas are cheap, right? It's easy to talk about something, but the reality of it, the application of it is expensive. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes staff time, and if you take staff time away, that means it's staff time away from other things that need to be taken care of as well. We've got a lot going on
Yes.
right now. We've got a lot. Hats off, you've been doing a lot of good things. But many of those good things now need follow through, follow up, and management, and that's taking up a lot of bandwidth right now.
And we also have to keep this in context of everything else that's going on beyond this committee's work.
This is one of three.
Right.
Right?
So we have to balance all of those things. So maybe it will be a helpful exercise just to quickly identify what are the most immediate priorities, and then we can, after, maybe not immediately, but maybe in 3 months, we can revisit and kind of schedule out the other priorities.
Then, I've been talking with Fred and Cindy about a larger discussion with all of council to kind of adopt this methodology across all committees. And so it's not just public health and safety, and finance and admin is doing their own thing. Mm-hmm. It's a council and mayor thing where we need to understand, look, the goal is to always look at our comprehensive plan and have that as our guiding light, and then identify special projects. Maybe it would be helpful to identify recurring projects that don't require, any special input. Those things that are part of our normal operating procedures, and then you can look at special projects. Special projects is what gobbles up a lot of time, right? I get it. I understand. I've been in your shoes. I understand that you all have issues that are near and dear to your hearts, and it's important for borough staff to support those things. And we need to have all of council supporting those ideas also. It goes off the rails really quickly when it becomes special interest, when public health and safety, we want to do this, and the rest of council doesn't really know what's happening. It's got to be a unified body, right? And so I know I'm talking a lot without saying a lot of substance, because you have a lot of details. Those details are going to bog us down in the office. I'm thinking, Alan and I are like, oh my goodness. Just think about what we need to do to get things operational. So I would really like some guidance. Mm-hmm. And you know me, I will give you some frank feedback of whether or not those are attainable.
And that's what we also need from the staff to kind of set those realistic expectations of what can be accomplished.
And it's hard for me to say no, right? That's one of my problems, right? Because I don't disagree with any of these ideas and projects, and so it's like, yeah, I want to do that. That's a great idea, but I'm really starting to develop a more realistic understanding of our bandwidth. Mm-hmm. We're still not fully staffed yet, right? We've got a lot of transition that's happening, and I hate making it sound like I'm making excuses, but this is the reality, right? So I do believe that 6-month time frame is going to be good, and we're going to continue. Like every week is going to be better than the previous week. Every month is going to be better than the previous month. And then within 6 months, we really should be humming. And we should be able to expand these things.
Matt and Jean, can I ask one more follow-up question / example? So Jean, you have on here, identify locations for safer pedestrian crossing infrastructure, for example. And this has been something in the comprehensive plan since I've been on council. And it feels as if we're kind of in this great and unique position now to have both John String and Jeff Eldon, right? To even our PAC with the built environment and public safety design certifications, where council is we're able to be removed from that, right? Because we have a staff of a really strong public works director, a really strong director of public health and safety, chief of police, who are collectively coming together and saying, hey, these are intersections we see are a problem. Let's get Eric involved. Hey, we have to do these stormwater bump outs. Let's work collectively. And then the staff kind of tells us, this is what we're doing. Where that hasn't always been the relationship or the dynamic. Am I accurately describing that dynamic? I'm kind of looking at John and Matt on my screen.
I think that's appropriate. You know, those are those things that aren't the special project type things. Those are the things that we integrate into our day-to-day activities. That, you know, Chief String and Jeff Eldon, they incorporate that as they go and respond to things. In the forefront of their mind is, oh yes, our comprehensive plan, we are to be looking at it through this lens. And that should, you know, and if staff ever makes recommendations to this committee and council, it should also be, as part of that recommendation, it hits this item in the comprehensive plan. This is how it applies.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the management type things versus, you know, I like two different buckets. Management type things, integrating in the philosophy of how we manage day-to-day activities, and then the special projects. Several of these things are special projects, right, that will require a very specific thing that you can measure.
I two thoughts. One was, I actually forgot to mention that one of the things I noted when I got the email was there wasn't a column for resources needed. You know, whether it's, you know, to the extent, do we need staff? How much staff would it take for each of these things? And I think we have to be deliberate when we look at each of these to say, what is the staff involvement? How much time is it going to take? And who is it going to be? Because, you know, if all of a sudden you see Matt, or Alan down the line, it gives you a visual of, oh my gosh, how much are we overloading you?
And I think we also have to add financial resources as well.
You beat me to it. Right? The other column I didn't see was any financial commitment to it. It's sort of hinted in some of these, but you know, I think in some ways, like I've been on project management stuff where, you know, the column goes the other way, you know, you're doing it in landscape so that you can add those additional things, and it just helps you, you know, then you're looking and you're like, oh, this is a 1-year thing, this is a 3-year thing, this is a 5-year thing, this is a, in our dreams, you know, kind of thing. And I would also add to that column, you know, opportunities for community engagement too, right? So, for example, I would like to be more deliberate. If we go back to the sidewalks, if we can get it out there, like, we're working on this. If you think that there's a sidewalk issue, or you're noticing stormwater management issues where, you know, after the rains the other day, like, you know, your street flooded or caused an issue, you know, that we have those opportunities to make sure the public's aware of what we're doing here, and they can provide their input, because I think we tend to underutilize that opportunity.
I agree, and I think the borough can be taking a more proactive approach with communication. I know that's something that, you know, Cindy, you and I have talked about developing a communications plan and how we can leverage current resources. It's just it needs to be a prioritization and an identification of a process. I'm a process-oriented nut. And, you know, if we have a special project, let's say we're doing sidewalk reconstruction, okay, what's the communication plan for that? Let's communicate it on these methods, you know, a week, you know, a month before, a week before, the day before, right? Let's quantify it. How can we be putting that out? It would help me manage it from a staffing standpoint to know what those expectations are, what those things are that should be publicized, instead of it, oh, I thought we talked about it. It should have been. I want, what is it? What's the communication plan? And I think it would be helpful to really be as directed in that as possible. And that's something that I would like to discuss in that larger group setting with council. Because again, that's another thing that goes outside of this committee.
There is is there currently an active app for the community members to report a problem, MyGov, is that working?
No.
Oh, okay.
I have not been allowed to access MyGov yet.
I think Jack can
Yes.
It works.
I have used it, Andrea, in the last 3 months. I used it to report bushes that were overhanging, and I truth be told, I never checked back, but the bushes wound up being trimmed. So I guess I would ask Jeff, but yeah, I use it.
Good. So we should, you know, let the public know that that's a way to let people know of a problem.
I do want to wrap up the discussion. Is there anything that Andrea and John, you wanted to add?
No, I appreciate the discussion.
And I just want to make a note that there are things here that doesn't really require any staff resources, which can be taken on by our other committees, and or through Parks and Rec, or possibly through our police as well. So I do think that those can be identified and maybe prioritized as well, without taxing the staff.
I guess the last thing is, we shouldn't be shy about sharing our successes. So the other day when we got the email about the stormwater and how successful that was, you know, we should make sure that the public's aware of that fine effort, and we got it out on the various Facebook groups, and I think people did appreciate it and recognize it, so.
Jeff Eldon got a lot of
A
props.
lot of, I don't know if you saw a lot.
On
I'll show
social
you after
media.
the meeting.
I have
Yeah,
no
we'll
access.
show you.
There were many props given to Jeff Eldon.
People noticed, but we made a point of putting it out there, and I think that's important, you know, to celebrate our successes. People only recognize when things don't go right, so it's good to know. You don't realize when things do go right.
It's
because
always
they
nice.
go right, right?
Always nice, yes.
So I guess we'll follow up with staff afterwards, and I generally agree with the priorities that Cindy has put out for the near term, and then we can work that out.
I don't, my perspective is that this is a philosophical idea, and it's going to be difficult to quantify it in such a way that you're going to be able to go through and get into the weeds and identify different things. Let's keep this conversation front and center. It could be a recurring conversation every meeting, right? You could just keep it current, keep it relevant. I think that would be a really.
And I think it's really helpful just to see like all of the list of like what we are in the future trying to accomplish and what we're working towards as we set the priorities. Okay, so I'll conclude that agenda item. We can move on to the third agenda item, which is committee reports. We have Joe Toscano from the Environmental Advisory Council, and we have Rebecca Starr from the Police Advisory Committee. I'd ask both of you to maybe give like a brief report of any updates, and we'll start with you, Joe.
Sure. So since the last meeting, there's three main things the EAC have been working on and discussing. One of those is our ongoing work on the community trace aggregation project. We're kind of in a holding pattern on that right now. Miriam Shakow went to Harrisburg along with I believe it was an EAC representative from Swarthmore, and they met with the Public Utilities Commission. And so right now we're kind of waiting for feedback from the PUC on the whole idea of this. And once we have that, we can make modifications to the plan and move forward with it. So that's where we're at with that. Second item is we started looking at the EV charger usage. Al gave me some of the data on how much the different charging stations are being used. So we're still in the process of kind of working through that data, and I've talked with Alan so we can get some more data from Flow because we don't have a complete set yet. And one of the things we're doing in that is to look at where other municipalities and other locations have used to assess how effective their public EV chargers have been. So for example, New York State did a big project on all their public EV chargers and how much they were being used in order to assess their effectiveness. There have been some other work done in different kinds of settings to see like what typical usage would be. So we're kind of digging through all that research now so that we can use that combined with the data on our own usage to sort of assess how it's going with the program. I can say that based on the data we have so far from a subset of the chargers from January through October of last year, the usage in terms of the amount of actual energy expended by the chargers increased by about 46%. So we are seeing a pretty substantial increase in the usage just in terms of overall energy output there for some of the chargers. We don't have all of them yet. So we're looking through that. We'll look at time of use and things like that as we go forward. The last item is we've been talking about the additions to the green building bonus. So Planning Commission had a proposal of how to, this goes beyond, for example, the requirements that they don't have fossil fuel hookups for heating and things like that. They purchase renewable electricity. But to look into the aspects of the green building bonus that would involve sustainable building materials and things like that, and working through a process where you don't have a one-size-fits-all approach for all the applicants because different projects have different scopes, and so it's not clear that there's a checklist that's going to work for everybody. And so what Planning Commission was considering was an approach where we offer some suggestions and we do it on a case-by-case basis for what different projects might be feasible for different projects. So we're going through that, and we're going to try and provide some feedback to Planning Commission on sort of suggested green building practices that we could present to applicants that they can, not that it has to be a fixed menu, but at least some ideas to get them started. And then they would meet with the EAC, meet with the Planning Commission to kind of refine their ideas on what's feasible for their project, basically, is what we would do. That's kind of weird. Those are the main things we've been focused on the last month or so.
And what do you see the general timeline for the CCA?
It depends on how quickly we get feedback from the PUC. That's the next step. Once we get that, I think they might also be waiting for some more information from PICO, but I think they've mostly gotten the information they needed from PICO. By the way, I mean Jewel, who's kind of coordinating the whole effort. So depending on what the PUC says, they might not really have a lot of feedback. They might suggest changes to the way the program's implemented. The key thing that I want to see from them is some acknowledgement that, they we're basically would be, if the CCA is implemented, we're basically operating the way that borough municipal electric utilities operate, and that we're purchasing electricity. And the PUC doesn't oversee those because they're government entities. And so I hopefully that we'll get some acknowledgement from them, basically saying that they agree that that's kind of like how this would work going forward. But we're just waiting on them from that. So hopefully in the next month or so, we'll get some more information from them.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all the work that you guys are doing. I really appreciate it. Any questions?
And Joe, I'd like to schedule some time that you and I can meet to talk about the CCA so I can get my head around it and see how we can support that initiative from a borough standpoint, just so I can map it out and see what level do we need, does the borough administration need to be involved? So I've gotten some phone calls this past week from other municipalities, so I think the word is spreading. So the more I know about it, the better it would be for me to help communicate that outward.
Sounds good.
And there will be an RFP process in the future.
That's part of the process. I can share with you guys the draft implementation plan that we've been kind of working through and revising, and that'll have some ideas of like what the milestones are in the process.
Great.
And we'll move on to Rebecca Starr, the Police Advisory Committee.
Hi. We have not met since the last meeting of PHS, so there's no new news. We're continuing to work on, based on the charge that we received when we were formed, we've been looking qualitative and quantitatively at the police department and community needs and concerns, and so we're trying to pull all of that together into a report to present to you, just based on what we've been doing for the last 6 months, I guess it is. That having been said, we're kind of trying to figure out what comes next. We don't want to be creating work that doesn't need to happen, but obviously want to be supporting both the work of Borough Council and the police department. So we have been working with Chief String. He used us as sort of a resource to bounce ideas off of in terms of some of the policies that they're working on evaluating and redrafting, and I imagine that we will be continuing to do that with the chief, which has been really, from what I understand, been really helpful. And other than that, we really are going to be trying to figure out who we are and what we need to be doing. We have a wonderful chief in place, and we don't want to be duplicating his work nor creating unnecessary work for the staff at the same time. So.
And I think that's something that the committee can discuss and talk about in terms of what does come next for the committee. Do you have a timeline for the report?
So I would have been hoping that at our next meeting we might be able to pull it together That having been said, we don't have drafts of all the sections yet, so it may be a month beyond, depending on how much it needs to be workshopped once we
So
get
we're
all the
looking at
individual
March,
sections.
Okay.
So,
When is your next meeting?
next week, next Thursday at 7:30
AM.
a.m.
Okay.
Okay. And also, I have kind of talked a little bit about different ideas that possibly the committee might be looking at. And I've also talked to John about this. There's the idea of having the dog walker community
Right.
watch program.
Right, no, there's some
And
great
that's-
ideas out there, and we're
Yeah.
happy to be exploring those and developing them and so forth. But again, we're being, I met with you, I met with Matt, I'm also being mindful of priorities and expenses and
Right.
staff implementation, so that we're not just creating work to create work, but on the other hand, we also are creating the public health and safety plan that we really want
Mhm.
from our police force. So it's that balance.
Any comments from committee? Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for your work on that. So we'll move on to the next agenda item, departmental reports. We have the Melbourne Fire Department report, which is included in the packet. Matt, did you want to share something? about
Yeah, just really quickly, thank you. I had been notified by the Narberth Fire Company's fire chief that the intention of the fire company is to sell one of the 3 engines that we own. Just for a background, the borough owns all of the fire equipment. The borough manages the fire equipment fund through a separate fund, which is included in the capital fund. If you recall, as part of the budget making process, the budget is committed to allocating $40,000 annually into that fund, as has the fire company. So there's $80,000 that gets put into that fund annually. The idea is that, according to the Chief Dixon, we don't need 3 engines. And they believe that if,
We have 4, we're selling.
I thought we had 3 and we're selling 1. Maybe we have 4 total trucks,
We have 4
3
trucks, and we're
engines,
selling 1.
3 engines, 1 ladder. We need 2 engines. There's no reason to have 3 engines. What they believe is to have a smaller utility vehicle that would enable them to better respond to urban issues. And what they are hoping to do, and their plan, is to sell one and then purchase a Ford Lightning, an electrical vehicle. So that supports the borough's general goal of going to electric vehicles, and they're pretty excited about it. So I bring that up because since the borough owns all of these pieces of equipment, the process is the fire company initiates the sale, they agree upon it during a public bid process, they sell it, the money, the borough gets the money, it gets deposited into the capital equipment fund, fire equipment fund, and then the purchase of then gets paid out of that same fund. So I wanted to bring that to this committee's attention, and I'll bring it up at Thursday's council meeting. Also, just as an informational item.
Are there any estimates on how much they'll get for okay, and how much the new vehicle would cost?
Well, it depends on the upfitting of the vehicle.
Okay.
I believe that the Ford Lightning that we got for the police was about 45.
They're a little bit more now. It's closer to 55 now.
Okay, but it depends on what the upfitting that the fire department wants, and so the costs can increase depending upon what types of equipment they want added to it. I'm hoping it's at least a wash. That's my hope, if not a little less than what they can get for an engine. So, thank you.
The only other thing I know in the fire department report was that Bill Henderson resigned as assistant chief, and I've known Bill for a long time, and he's been assistant chief for a long time, I believe.
Yes.
And I just want to acknowledge his service to the fire department in the borough over all that time period. I don't know if he's staying in the department, he's just resigned as chief, or whether he's...
He is still our fire marshal.
Okay, good.
Also, I just want to note that the fire department has invited us to attend the drill this month if we would like. I plan to go January 24th it is, I think.
It's a great drill, if you get an opportunity to go, it's very impressive.
And it's over at the Public Works?
No, it's at the Lower Marion Transfer Station.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, there's a tower where they do all the drills. So I'm excited to
It's a great drill.
see that. And then we'll move on to the Narberth Police Report.
So just in addition to the police report that's already been submitted, a couple things I want to mention is that we had discussed the communications plan at the last meeting, and we are working on developing that comprehensive point of contact for residents or business owners or anybody that wants to be able to receive messages from the borough. We're looking to just strengthen the existing structure that we have now. And then look at what additional developments need to be made. So existing being Everbridge, Facebook, the newsletter, things like that. And then I think one of the things we need to add is MyGov. Obviously, initially when I spoke, I directed the communications outwards, but I think it's important to, as you mentioned, have that two-way communication. So we can include that on there as well for residents that might not be aware of MyGov. So we'll add that in, and then we'll look at what additional resources we might need to address some of those community needs as far as communication. And then you mentioned the bike patrol. So currently the officers, it's been several years since they've received training, so we're in the midst of looking for a certified course for them to go to, just a refresher. And then we're going to deploy the bikes this spring, summertime, obviously for
That's great.
the benefit of the community, having them out and having a little bit easier contact with residents and people in the community.
Hey, John, just a quick thank you. I see you included the data for the EV parking violations.
Yes.
Thanks.
So it is on there, and I can tell you this month is increased, or it's already past that this month. So we're definitely focusing on ensuring that the EV charging spots are available for EV vehicles and the people that are parked there are utilizing them.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so we can move on to public comment. I'll open up to general public comment. We'll start in the room. I don't think we have anyone.
We do.
Oh, we do, okay. Please state your name and your address for the record, and try to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Will do. My name is Amy Smith, and I live at 127 Marion Avenue. With the start of the new year, I want to start by saying that I applaud the committee's commitment to improving the borough's walkability. It's something that my family and I enjoy daily. I also look forward to providing feedback to the committee as you finalize the draft policy on the EV charging station pilot program, a process that was started in 2023. As I stated in the prior meeting, equitable access and equitable impact are very important when writing this policy. The 125, 127 EV charger should be relocated to a location that is more accessible to both sides of town, preferably placed in the center of town, the business district. Additionally, the onus of this charger's impact should not single out 2 families in town and create a division between neighbors. Our neighbor, former councilperson Michelle Pananopoulos, in her official capacity as an elected official, asked for the EV charger to be placed in between our homes. But while we are equally affected by her decision, we were not told, nor were we given the opportunity to provide feedback. The process was undemocratic and arbitrary. For reasons that the council is aware of, this EV charger is a real burden to our family and to our street. Right now, the new Public Health and Safety Committee has the opportunity to edit the draft policy to account for the misplacement of the 125, 127 EV charger and relocate it to a site that would be expected to be visited by the public during normal hours of availability, or to be hosted by Narberth residents who are fully supportive of that location. I would also like to request that the speed limit on South Essex be lowered to 15 miles per hour, as well as stop signs be put in at every intersection there. My 2-year-old daughter and I walk on this road every day, and we would like to see enhanced efforts for pedestrian and child safety. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I guess we'll move on to online. Does anyone online have a public comment?
Yes, good morning. Hi, this is Betsy Harvey. Thank you for your time and thank you.
Betsy, you muted yourself.
I remuted myself. I'm sorry, everyone. Good morning. I apologize. You'd think after 3 years of experience, I would get that correct. But no, thank you for your time and thank you for all that you're doing to reorganize going into 2024. Appreciate all that you all are doing. I am here to further iterate the move and location for the 125, 127 Marion Avenue. I know I've been in front of the Borough Council and other and this group today, but just specifically this location from the initial requirements was expected to be visited by the public during normal hours of availability. And there is no park or business in this area, I realize, to put these things on the south side, but it does really limit pedestrian safety. It's not so much pedestrian safety at that point, but I want to just say that the location just doesn't meet the criteria. I think, from a business standpoint, you guys want something that's probably operationally and financially viable and lucrative in this process so that it pays itself back. That location's not going to work, and it doesn't work for their family. And, I think we're never going to stop trying to ask for it to be moved because it's just not in the right spot. And I'm sure there's a mutually agreeable place somewhere else in the borough and maybe other neighbors who'd be willing to do it, getting back to some of the initial conversations in 2023. So just ask that you really assess the feasibility of this location, really consider it. I know that it's not a fun conversation, but it's really important to the viability and this, the neighborhood, but also the overall sustainability plan that you all have in place for Narberth. And I would just ask that you really take for lack of a better term, sort of the pride out of it and really look at it from a data standpoint and positioning standpoint. It really just isn't the best spot. This entire street is not the best spot. And then also, I did want to come today and mention there have been a number of traffic incidents that have happened unreported because no actual crash has happened and no person has been hit. But especially during the holiday season, there was a tremendous uptick in stop signs being blown and other instances along Essex and South Narberth. And our side of Narberth, like some of the areas along Windsor, are a little bit hard to see around the corner. So when you all do your walkability study, maybe you could consider I know it's not a traffic study, but just discerning whether the borough could just make these all four-way stops. We've asked for this for years. I know the corner of Chestnut and South Narberth has had numerous accidents over the last, 5 or 6 years we, have seen. And so I worry about the kids. I worry about them, especially during school walking home, rush hour morning. It's just not great. And just a year ago yesterday, my neighbor's dog was hit and killed in the street because somebody was driving too fast. Yeah, the dog did go on the road. These things happen. But at the end of the day, the person was driving too fast. So I just ask that you consider assessing the speed limit and the stop signs on South Side, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments to you both. So I'll close the public comment. And our next meeting will be February 9th at 10 a.m. And thank you all for joining us. And I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
I'd just like to say congratulations on running your first public safety.
Thank you for your patience.
You're great.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.